Following a visit to the United Nations, Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelenskyy is in Washington today, meeting with President Biden and members of Congress as he seeks additional funding for his country's defense against Russia's invasion now in its 19th month.
And joining us now is the junior senator from Delaware, Coons. Senator, good to see you.
Great to see you, DeMarco.
All right, President Zelenskyy will be back in the nation's capital. What do you hope to hear from the leader of Ukraine?
Well, President Zelenskyy has been a brave and effective leader of his nation's fight against Russia's brutal and ongoing invasion and occupation of the eastern 20% of Ukraine. I hope to hear from him about progress on the battlefield, about commitment to transparency and countering corruption, and to his determination to regain sovereign territory, to regain control of Ukraine's lands to the east and south. The United States has been a critical part of the global alliance that has supported Ukraine. I think it's important for your viewers to know that 50 countries around the world have provided more than $80 billion in support for Ukraine. That's more than the United States. We are the leading supporter, but the rest of our partners and allies around the world have more than matched our efforts in support of Ukraine's brave fight.
Let's talk about the money there, Senator. President Biden is seeking an additional $24 billion in aid for Ukraine. Speaker McCarthy has said the U.S. should not give Ukraine a blank check with no end to this war in sight. What should the funding for Ukraine look like?
Well, I disagree with Speaker McCarthy, and I think in conversations with our military and intelligence community leaders, the conclusion they've reached is that the surest way to end this war is for it to be clear to Vladimir Putin that American support for Ukraine and Ukraine's fight is unwavering. The sooner Putin decides that he can't wait us out, that he can't simply hope that Republicans will wane in their support for Ukraine, the sooner he'll come to the negotiating table and there may well be a resolution. So it's not a blank check. There is accountability. We are tracking where the money and the weapons we are sending are being spent and deployed. And frankly, I have a more determined support than ever for this next request for $24 billion of support for Ukraine.
And speaking of funding, there's a government shutdown looming at the end of the month. How confident are you that a deal can be reached?
I'm increasingly concerned that the House Republican caucus is so internally divided that they can't even come forward with a proposal for us to consider here in the Senate. In the Senate, Republicans and Democrats have worked very well together. We have passed all of our appropriations bills out of our committee with strong bipartisan support. In the House, the Republican majority has tried everything but working with Democrats, and so far, they haven't come forward with a real proposal. We have very little time left, and I'll point out that a shutdown of our government doesn't just hurt millions of Americans, it also hurts our standing on the world stage. It reinforces the argument that autocrats like Xi Jinping of China and Vladimir Putin of Russia make around the world, that ours is a broken and waning system, that the American democracy is no longer capable of sustaining its leadership in the world. A government shutdown would add to that argument.
Let's talk about one other hot button issue. There's been criticism from both sides about the U.S. southern border. President Biden clearing the way to allow one group, Venezuelan migrants, to now work legally here in the U.S. Do you think that is the solution going forward?
Look, it's a part of the solution. President Biden has taken several strong steps to reduce migration at the border. But as he said in his State of the Union address, he cannot fix immigration without legislation from Congress. I've been a part of several bipartisan groups trying to come forward with legislation. It's very difficult. The politics of immigration are very divisive. But we should, I believe we can, find a way to both secure our border and respect our humanitarian traditions in terms of how we treat those seeking asylum here. It is a difficult needle to thread, but one I think that Congress needs to take up and move forward.
Senator, President Biden is running for a second term, and polls show the president is neck and neck with Republican challengers there. Are you confident that the president is the right choice for Democrats in 2024?
I am, and that's partly because of his very strong record. We haven't had this long, this low a period of unemployment in 50 years. National unemployment's below 4%, and it has been for a year and a half. Inflation has come down. Unemployment has stayed low. We've created more than 13.5 million jobs in the first 2 years of President Biden's leadership, more than 850,000 great manufacturing jobs. To be clear, former President Trump promised to do several big things: rebuild our infrastructure, restore manufacturing, reduce prescription drug prices. Those are all things that President Biden has gotten done that President Trump promised he would, but didn't.
All right, Senator Chris Coons, again, good to see you, and thanks for making time for us.
Thank you, DeMarco. Thank you, Ava.
Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Lots of great stuff here. So go on, click the subscribe button right over here to get more of awesome videos and content from GMA every day, anytime. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the morning on GMA.